You're live.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Free Assange Vigil. My name is Steve Poikinen. I am joined
You're
this
live.
evening by Misty Winston. Hey everyone, welcome
Andrew
to Smith. This is our 66th week in a row of the Free Assange Vigil, and we're not going to let up. Let me run through the numbers with you guys here. We have 3,592 days of illegal and arbitrary detention for Julian Assange, 546 days since the WikiLeaks founder was trafficked from the Ecuadorian embassy after being sold to the United Kingdom for a $4.2 billion IMF loan. 91 days remain until District Judge Vanessa Baratzer, the concierge of the State Department, reads her decision, which will be January 4th of 2021. There have been 1,217 days of incarceration for Reality Winner. On the plus side, Chelsea Manning has now been free for 203 days. She streams on Twitch 4 days a week, Thursday through Sunday. Her Twitch handle is Twitch slash XY Chelsea 87. If you're on Twitch, go show her some love. And with that, I will kick it over to Andrew for this week's call to action.
Yeah, so I put out 2 call to actions this week. One of them is a solidarity action for David McBride. And it's just really simple. I included a couple news articles in there. And I just would ask everybody to take the email addresses that are there. They're basically all the members of the Australian Parliament. There's like 150 members, and I have like 147 of their emails on that list. So if you could send them information about David's situation, quotes from these articles, and just demand that the charges against him be dropped. And then the other one is contacting your local congressperson, whether it's the Senate, House, or both, about the recent bills that Tulsi Gabbard put out and Thomas Massey put out about changing the Espionage Act, ending the prosecution of Julian Assange immediately, and pardoning Edward Snowden. So I'll put the links to those in there for everyone, but included in there is an additional call for you to reach out to your city council people. Most city councils are back to doing meetings, whether online or in person. So please share that information with them too, because city council people can put a lot of pressure on their local representatives, more than most people would think. So yeah, how are you doing today, Missy?
I am doing well. Just another day in paradise.
We just spent about an hour on the convo couch. That was a wonderful conversation. I enjoyed.
That was fun. That was so fun.
Quite a bit. And Pasta was just on my show on Sunday. If you guys haven't seen that, I think we had a wonderful series of conversations, and
yeah, it was one of my favorite of your shows, actually, and it was also very polite. You guys were like you were taking turns and saying "I'm sorry."
It was pretty fucking adorable, huh?
It was so cute, and then also the variety of facial hair. There's such a it was like it's something for everyone, you know. That's great.
Oh boy. So okay, we've got until November 16th when the closing arguments are delivered. Now here's what sucks about all of this, and we may have touched on it a time or two over the last couple of days. I don't know. Like I said, I experience all of these in more or less of a blackout. If you ask me 10 minutes after a vigil what I talked about, I'm going to be like, I don't know.
I do the same thing. I'm so glad you do that too.
I'm not, man. I really wish I could, but I don't. Like, I get here and I do the thing, and then it's gone. At any rate, on November 16th, closing arguments will be delivered. They will be delivered in writing only. There will be no opportunity whatsoever for Julian Assange's defense team to air out in court exactly why he should not be broad daylight kidnapped and dragged to the United States. So between now and then, one of the things that we are going to do here on the vigil is we're going to go over a specific witness's testimony or statements so that we can we can keep fresh in everyone's minds all of the legitimate reasons, and there are many, why Julian Assange should not be renditioned. Uh, and we're going to be encouraging all of you guys to act on this information. We are also hoping to, and if anybody lives in a state where it's possible, we would like to do some in-person teach-ins between now and Julian's sentencing decision that is read out 4th of January. So let us know. We would like to be able to do these very, very much. I think it's important to be able to I communicate to a live audience. If we have to, certainly we'll do it online, but we would prefer to at least try to get these done in person. So that's kind of just catching you guys up. And with that, we have news, and then we're going to be going over Trevor Timm's testimony and statement. Trevor Timm, if you remember, is the dude who broke Mega Brain. To the point to where they had to take a very long weekend to recover from what Trevor Timm did to James Lewis QC.
By the way, Steve, if you do not go as Mega Brain for Halloween, I'm going to be very disappointed in you.
I think
It's the only acceptable costume for you.
Okay, I'm ready. But go ahead and be James Lewis now. Good.
Oh my God, that's so wrong.
Oh,
bless our Discord.
Right. Can we pull that picture up real quick? I just love throwing that out there for the world. Let me see if I can find it real fast.
Which one?
The Mega Brain.
The Mega Brain one?
I mean, I know I have one of them saved.
I got it. I know exactly where to go find it. I got the dude's
Okay.
website unlocked. Let me see.
All right.
Just so everyone knows, I'm going to screen share this real fast. James Lewis on his own website has a quote of the UK Chambers in 2018 calling him a charming man with a mega brain. So I love it. If you have the power to, please meme it. If you're interested in joining a community of free Assange people, please check out our Discord, actionforassange.com/Discord. We'll hop you in there. But yeah, so that's who Trevor Timm slapped down on the third day of the hearings. So we'll get into that here at the end of after the news portion of the show.
And speaking of the news portion of the show, which one do you want to go through first? You want to, because Pilger's article is his statements are pretty lengthy, but there's some incredibly good moments. I guess it's not that long.
Yeah, we can start with Pilger.
My computer's being dumb, so I'm having trouble bringing up any of them right now.
Okay.
So you guys start, and then I'll try to figure out what the F's going on.
This is out of the Arena magazine, and John Pilger gave an interview to them. So, yeah, having watched Julian's trial firsthand, can you describe the prevailing atmosphere in the court? And by the way, Pilger has done some incredible interviews during and just post this hearing, and his manner of oratory, his storytelling, the way he lays, it's fantastic. If you have people in your life that don't really get what's going on, I highly recommend allowing John Pilger to explain it. Anywho, oh Jesus, what the hell just happened? Come on, there we go. Having watched Julian's trial firsthand, can you describe the prevailing atmosphere in the court? Pilger says the prevailing atmosphere has been shocking. I say that without hesitation. I have sat in many courts and seldom known such a corruption of due process. This is due revenge. Putting aside the ritual associated with British justice, at times it has been evocative of a Stalinist show trial. One difference is that in the show trials, the defendant stood in the court proper. In the Assange trial, the defendant was caged behind thick glass and had to crawl on his knees to a slit in the glass overseen by a guard to make contact with his lawyers. His message, whispered barely audibly through face masks, was then passed by post-it the length of the court where his barristers were arguing the case against his extradition to an American hellhole. Consider this daily routine of Julian Assange, an Australian on trial for truth-telling journalism. He was woken at 5 o'clock in his cell at Belmarsh's prison in the bleak southern sprawl of London. The first time I saw Julian in Belmarsh, having passed through half an hour of security checks, including a dog's snout in my rear, I found a painfully thin figure sitting alone wearing a yellow armband. He had lost more than 10 kilos in a matter of months. His arms had no muscle. His first words were, "I think I'm losing my mind." I tried to assure him he wasn't. His resilience and courage are formidable, but there is a limit. That was more than a year ago. In the past 3 weeks, in the pre-dawn, he was strip-searched, shackled, and prepared for transport to the Central Criminal Court, the Old Bailey, in a truck that his partner, Stella Morris, described as an upended coffin. It had one small window. He had to stand precariously to look out. The truck and its guards were operated by Serco, one of many politically connected companies that run much of Boris Johnson's Britain. The journey to the Old Bailey took at least a half an hour. That's a minimum of 3 hours being jolted through snail-like traffic every day. He was led into his narrow cage at the back of the court, then look up, blinking, trying to make out faces in the public gallery through the reflection of the glass. He saw the courtly figure of his dad, John Shipton, and me, and our fists went up. Through the glass, he reached out to touch fingers with Stella, who is a lawyer and seated in the body of a court. I'm going to pause there for a minute because I want to get a reaction or two out of, I don't know, anyone.
This all sucks, dude. Like, just hearing this shit, it's brutal. Like, can you imagine going through this as a human being? Like, just think of it. Just think of it. You guys, nobody should have to go through that shit. That's crazy.
Like, what independent journalist or mainstream journalist is willing to do this to be able to expose the crimes of the powerful? Like, what other person on the planet is willing to be strip searched, shackled, handcuffed, placed in a vertical coffin, driven for over an hour, removed from the vertical coffin, placed into a clear plexiglass coffin, only to barely be able to touch his fiance's fingers? Like,
no, through glass.
Through glass.
Yeah.
What other person is willing to do that to defend our right to be able to view classified information and to view the crimes of government?
Not nearly enough.
And if you're not willing to be put in that glass box, what are you doing right now to support the one individual who was, to defend your entire profession? Like, that's what I want answers to, like that specifically, because everything else is really just void as far as trying to get coverage for this. Like, any other questions, I guess, that you would make of a mainstream journalist? Like, are you willing to go through all of this to be able to continue to do your job? And I'm sure,
but I don't think this affects their job, though, Andrew. Like, at least not right now. They don't see it that way because they don't speak to power.
Look at the situation with, like, Eric Caramello Barr. Like, what people got leaked bullshit classified information in Russiagate that are now guilty of espionage? If not guilty of espionage in and of itself for Russiagate happening, but even those people that exposed bullshit information had skin in the game, because ultimately Rachel Maddow screamed at the top of her lungs about a fake story that can get her indicted.
So here's how this would happen then. The Espionage Act would be strictly a political weapon when it comes to journalists. And yeah, that absolutely does mean anyone who reported on Russiagate, who read out quote unquote, intel. It allows for however many administrations we have until, the Earth implodes in on itself, or a giant meteor comes, or dinosaurs come back, but this time they can shoot guns, or whatever it may be, it means that every single one of those administrations, should they find a reporter they don't like, they can have something classified leaked to them, and that journalist will publish it, and that journalist will go to prison. And that is going to be the future of journalism, is either you flatly refuse to publish information that the public absolutely has a right to know, or you become a political pawn. If I put
I think that's what they're.
Oh, go ahead.
I think it was up. No, but I think that's what they're okay with. Like I think like the Rachel Maddows and the Chris Hayes and those kind of people, they really don't genuinely think that this is going to affect them, because right now they don't speak any truth to any kind of power that they threaten or whatever. But it's what they don't understand is that this gets worse from here. This is not like they're not going to be safe forever. They might be safe right now, and they may be under the delusion that this is, something that they can escape. That's not possible. It's coming for everyone. I mean, this is coming for everyone, all of us, journalists or not. Like, this doesn't get better unless you stand up to it.
Yeah.
If I put the rest of this up on the share screen, Misty, would you read?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I have it. I have it up now.
Okay.
Where did you leave off though? Because I clicked off.
I left off at touching fingers through the glass, or touching fingers, with glass between them.
We were here for the ultimate.
We were here for the
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. Sorry. I'm so professional over here. Lost my place.
Scripted. We're fucking scripted.
We're very scripted, yo. Okay. So we were here for the ultimate, good. That started off great. Okay. We were here for the ultimate of what the philosopher Guy Debord called the Society of the Spectacle, a man fighting for his life. Yet his crime is to have performed an epic public service. Revealing that which we have a right to know, the lies of our government and the crimes they commit in our name. His creation of WikiLeaks and its fail-safe protection of sources revolutionized journalism, restoring it to the vision of its idealist. Edmund Burke's notion of free journalism as a fourth estate is now a fifth estate that shines a light on those who diminish the very meaning of democracy with their criminal secrecy. That's why his punishment is so extreme. The sheer bias in the courts I have sat in this year and the last year with Julian in the dock blight any notion of British justice. When thuggish police dragged him from his asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy, look closely at the photo and you'll notice he is clutching a Gore Vidal book. Dang it. Assange has a political humor similar to Vidal's. A judge gave him an outrageous 50-week sentence in a maximum security prison for mere bail infringement. For months, he was denied exercise and held in solitary confinement disguised as healthcare. He once told me he strode the length of his cell back and forth for his own half marathon. In the next cell, the occupant screamed through the night. At first, he was denied his reading glasses, left behind in the embassy brutality. He was denied the legal documents with which to prepare his case and access to the prison library and the use of a basic laptop. Books sent to him by a friend, the journalist Charles Glass, himself a survivor of hostage-taking in Beirut, were returned. He could not call his American lawyers. He has been constantly medicated by the prison authorities. When I asked him what they were giving him, he couldn't say. The governor of Belmarsh has been awarded the Order of the British Empire. So that's okay. I have to stop there because you guys, the shit that they've been doing to him in prison, like, I know we've mentioned it before, but it took him months to get a laptop. And when he got it, the keys were glued down. This is a guy who is currently fighting the biggest empire the world's ever seen. And he can't even like participate in his own defense. He can't talk to his lawyers. He doesn't have access to his legal documents. The fact that I mean, I know there's so many of these things, but the fact that this isn't enough to just toss the case out the window, like set it on fire, and it's crazy business that this is the shit that he goes through, and it's out in the open, broad daylight, and nobody gives a shit. Oh, I'm sorry, rant over. Sorry. Why don't you guys stop me when I do that?
Because you enjoy it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Okay. At the Old Bailey, one of the expert medical witnesses, Dr. Kate Humphrey, a clinical neuropsychologist at Imperial College London, described the damage. Julian's intellect had gone from in the superior, or more likely very superior range, to significantly below this optimal level, to the point where he was struggling to absorb information and perform in the low average range. God, that's depressing. This is what the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Torture, Professor Nils Melzer, calls psychological torture, the result of a gang-like mobbing by governments and their media shills. Some of the expert medical evidence is so shocking, I have no intention of repeating it here. Suffice to say that Assange is diagnosed with autism and Asperger's syndrome, and according to Professor Michael Koppelman, one of the world's leading neuropsychiatrists, he suffers from suicidal preoccupation and is likely to find a way to take his life if he is extradited to America. James Lewis, QC, America's British prosecutor, spent the best part of his cross-examination of Professor Koppelman dismissing mental illness and its dangers as malingering. Oh, I wanted to punch him in his stupid, smug face.
Dude.
Sorry. Oh. Okay. I have never heard in a modern setting such a primitive view of human frailty and vulnerability. My own view is that if Assange is freed, he is likely to recover a substantial part of his life. He has a loving partner, devoted friends and allies, and the innate strength of a principled political prisoner. He also has a wicked sense of humor. But that is a long way off. The moments of collusion between the judge or magistrate, a Gothic-looking Vanessa Breitzer, about whom little is known, and the prosecution acting for the Trump regime have been brazen. Until the last few days, defense arguments have been routinely dismissed. The lead prosecutor, James Lewis, QC, what the fuck is SAS? I don't know what that is.
It's
okay.
It's like British military special ops.
Yeah. Okay.
It's what our Green Berets, I believe, were modeled after.
I just didn't recognize it at first. I was trying to figure out what the fuck that was. Okay. And currently Chief Justice of the Falklands, by and large, gets what he wants, notably up to 4 hours to denigrate expert witnesses, while the defense examination is guillotined. Nice use of the word guillotined. At half an hour. I have no doubt.
Technical legal term for it.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's okay. What they call it in the courtroom.
I like it. I have no doubt, had there been a jury, his freedom would be assured. The dissident artist, I don't know how to say his name. I'm gonna butcher it. Okay, thank you. I'm so bad at remembering how to pronounce people's names. I don't even know what's wrong with me.
I would say I know that would be.
Andrew, you are bad at this too.
That. You would, yes, because
I feel so.
Child.
Yes. No, wasn't he calling Dobbins Dubins or something for the longest time?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry, Andrew. I shouldn't pick on you, but I feel better now that I'm not alone.
No, I'm terrible.
So I'm exploiting that
day after day after day.
It was so funny though. Seriously, I'm getting off track, but that first week and a half of you guys doing early morning stuff is comedy gold.
It's like Munich.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
one of those people that speak a foreign language with an American accent.
Do you guys want me to continue, or should I stop? Do you guys have anything to add to?
Well, the next part's actually gets into the Craig Murray situation, which I find particularly interesting.
Okay. Do you want to jump in, Andrew, and you can read about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you pronounce that guy's name?
Oui, right?
I thought it was Wei.
I don't know.
This is an artist, Ai Weiwei, came to join us one morning in the public gallery. He noted that in China, the judge's decision would have already been made. This caused some dark, ironic amusement. My companion in the gallery, an astute diarist and former British ambassador Craig Murray, wrote, I fear that all over London a very hard rain is now falling on those who for the lifetime have worked within the institutions of liberal democracy that at least broadly and assumedly or usually used to operate within the governance of their own professed principles. It has been clear to me from day one that I am watching a charade unfold. It is not in the least a shock to me that Baratzer does not think anything beyond the written opening arguments has any effect. I have again and again reported to you that where rulings have been made, she has brought them to court pre-written before hearing the arguments before her. I strongly expect the final decision was made in this case before opening arguments were received. The plan of the U.S. government throughout has been to limit information available to the public and limit the effective access to a wider public of what information is available. Thus, we have seen extreme restrictions on both physical and video access, a complicit mainstream media that ensured those of us who know what is happening are very few in the wider population. And then Pilger continues, there are few recordings of the proceedings. They are Craig Murray's personal blog, Joe Loria's live recording on Consortium News, and the World Socialist website. The American journalist Kevin Gastola's blog, Shadowproof, funded mostly by himself, has reported on more of the trial than the major U.S. press and TV, including CNN combined.
I've got some words for John Pilger.
Hurts my feelings. They left us off the list.
Kevin didn't.
I love Kevin. In Australia, Assange's homeland, the coverage follows a familiar formula set overseas. A London correspondent from the Sydney Morning Herald, Valika Bork, writes recently, the court heard Assange became depressed during the 7 years he spent in the Ecuadorian embassy, where he sought political asylum to escape extradition to Sweden to answer rape and sexual assault charges. There was no rape and sexual assault charges in Sweden. Burke's lazy falsehoods is not uncommon. If Assange's trial is a political trial of the century, as I believe it is, its outcome will not only seal the fate of journalists for doing his job, but ultimately the very principles of free journalism and free speech. The absence of a serious mainstream reporting of these proceedings is, at the very least, self-destructive. Journalists should ask, who's next?
Well, they should. I mean, and again, this isn't like there are people who just their whole job is to be a national security reporter, and all the time they're trading through print little bits of classified information. And should anyone in government decide that they're pissed off at that national security reporter, this precedent would mean they're fucking next. This is anyone in the independent media who has disclosed embarrassing facts about the government. That means Whitney Webb. That means Elizabeth Voss. That means Joe Loria. That means Caitlin Johnstone. That means all kinds of people are subject to Espionage Act charges for reporting in the public interest. And I don't believe for a moment that this is going to be reserved solely for classified material.
And it's not going to be reserved solely for journalists. Eventually, you're going to be able to be charged just for sharing a Caitlin Johnstone article.
That's
or
what
sharing a Whitney Webb article.
Said in court.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this doesn't stop with journalists. Like, I don't think a lot of people are grasping that this is not that should be an excuse to ignore it. I mean, you should care that it's a huge attack on free press and the future of journalism. That's a big fucking deal. But beyond that, I don't think people are grasping that this doesn't stop with Julian Assange. It really doesn't. It's going, I mean, and it doesn't stop with a Whitney Webb. Eventually, I mean, was it Chris Cuomo maybe, who on CNN was like, it's illegal to have possession of WikiLeaks or to read WikiLeaks. You should just get your information from us. That's where they're headed.
You
like that.
Get your information from CNN.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like a little piece of manufactured consent for them saying that you should only believe and listen to information that we force feed you. And I mean, it's not. This doesn't end with Julian. It doesn't end with journalists. This is not a good step at all.
And Pilger,
you're muted, Andrew.
Pilger goes into that in the next question in this article, so I'm going to move through this as quick as possible because we've got other stuff to cover. But yeah, he's asked what the implications of the verdict are for journalism more broadly. Pilger says the Assange effect is already being felt across the world. If they displease the regime in Washington, investigative journalists are liable to prosecution under the Espionage Act. The precedent is stark. It doesn't matter where you are. For Washington, other people's nationality and sovereignty rarely mattered. Now it does not exist. Britain has effectively surrendered its jurisdiction to Trump's corrupt Department of Justice. In Australia, a National Security Information Act promises Kafkaesque trials for transgressors. The Australian Broadcasting Corporation has been raided by police and journalists' computers taken away. That's our friend David McBride, who gave the information that turned into a police raid on the Australian Broadcasting Company. The government has given unprecedented powers to intelligence officials, making journalistic whistleblowing almost impossible. Prime Minister Scott Morrison says Assange must face the music. The perfidious cruelty of his statement is reinforced by its banality. Evil, wrote Hannah Arendt, I'm probably saying that wrong, comes from a failure to think. Evil comes from a failure to think. It defies thought. For as soon as thought tries to engage itself with evil and examine the premises and principles from which it originates, it is frustrated because it finds nothing there. That is the banality of evil. Andrew, you're about ready to make another comment on the verdict and the precedent anyway, so if you want to jump in and do that, and then we can get to this last bit.
Yeah, no, I was just going to talk about the point during the second week where Claire Dobbins was forced to argue in court that if Assange is prosecuted, it will open the door for prosecuting anyone that's viewed, shared, retweeted classified information on social media. Which to me is the most terrifying thing, because not only are they going after the journalists at this point, they have permission to go after the people that know the information directly. And as Edward Snowden so beautifully puts it, that we're under a system of turnkey tyranny, that all there is a couple strokes of a keyboard and you can see the people that have shared this type of information and can just manufacture warrants for their arrest.
To wrap up the piece, having followed the story of WikiLeaks closely for a decade, how has this eyewitness experience shifted your understanding of what's at stake with Assange's trial? I have long been a critic of journalism as an echo of unaccountable power and a champion of those who are beacons. So for me, the arrival of WikiLeaks was exciting. I admired the way Assange regarded the public with respect, that he was prepared to share his work with the mainstream, but not to join their collusive club. This and naked jealousy made him enemies among the overpaid and under-talented, insecure in their pretensions of independence and impartiality. I admired the moral dimension to WikiLeaks. Assange was rarely asked about this, yet much of his remarkable energy comes from a powerful moral sense that governments and other vested interests should not operate behind walls of secrecy. He is a Democrat, small d Democrat, which has nothing to do with the American political system. Don't fucking set your hair on fire. He explained this in one of our first interviews at my home in 2010. What is at stake for the rest of us has long been at stake. Freedom to call authority to account, freedom to challenge, to call out hypocrisy, to dissent. The difference today is that the world's imperial power, the United States, has never been as unsure of its metastastic authority as it is today. Like a flailing rogue, it is spinning us towards a world war if we allow it. Little of this menace is reflected in the media. WikiLeaks, on the other hand, has allowed us to glimpse a rampant imperial march through whole societies. Think of the carnage in Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Yemen, to name a few. The dispossession of 37 million people and the deaths of 12 million men, women, and children in the war on terror, most of it behind a facade of deception. Julian Assange is a threat to these recurring horrors. That is why he's being persecuted. Why a court of law has become an instrument of oppression. Why he ought to be our collective conscience. Why we all should be the threat.
The judge's decision will be known on the 4th of
We
January.
knew that bit. I was in and where it was punchy. It was punchy. Jesus.
You had to give it some suspense, Andrew. Come on.
Sorry.
We all
But no-
can do that.
I don't think anyone could sum it up better than that.
No.
This isn't just a threat against Julian. He is just the bulwark that has been used to protect everyone that knows this same information.
Is your army getting rowdy, Andrew?
Yeah, one of them escaped again.
The
same
army.
one.
Okay, yeah.
He's living back on top of the office, so you may hear some banging around.
I don't want to spend a lot of time on the declassified UK article, but
Do the Daily Mail article next. dailymaverick.co.za.
Yeah. It's a necessary news item. I don't want to linger on it. So just it keeps getting worse. Like, just when you think that Julian Assange has been fucked over as much as anyone in the history of journalism has been fucked over, we find out that that Dr. Nigel Blackwood, the prosecution's second witness, the prosecution only called 2 witnesses for this. One was Blackwood, and he was there to completely discredit everything that Michael Koppelman said, Professor Koppelman, whom we talked about earlier. Declassified UK looked into exactly who Dr. Blackwood was, and what they found was that we can go through the bullet points here real quick. U.S. prosecution witness works at Institute of Psychiatry funded by the UK military, although is not personally funded by it. The witness leads research groups, which works in collaboration with centers set up with U.S. Department of Defense funding. He co-leads the group with an academic whose work is often funded by the UK military. The Institute's partner department is closely linked to the Anglo-American military and intelligence communities, created a course for British intelligence officers on behalf of the UK government. There's over $8 million in funding involved in this. There's just so many different tentacles, like every single available avenue for corruption has been laid right at Dr. Nigel Blackwood's grubby little paws. And he went in there and he lied to the court. He lied to Baratzer. He lied to everyone sitting in the room, and this was over the razor incident. He denied the existence that Julian had his room searched and they found a razor. And he knew that. And he lied about it. He perjured himself on the stand. I don't know if there will be any repercussions or not.
Well, didn't Vanessa Baratzer say that that wasn't an important thing for the record anyways? So even though he was openly caught lying, the judge says, well, it's okay that you lied. Like, am I remembering that wrong?
What she said was because the report was destroyed, and it was like they didn't go follow through with it. They just filed it away. That it technically didn't happen because there was no follow up and no charges were filed. That it was a non-instance. So she basically made it all disappear in terms of the court record. That's how that went down.
That's the fact that a dude can openly lie in court and the judge is like, no, it's okay that record was destroyed. Like, that just speaks volumes about the way that the UK is handling the case.
No, I agree. And this guy, I mean, I don't know. It was disgusting what he did. Do you want to play the Rebecca Vincent clip, or do we want to skip straight to the new pieces of legislation?
I think we could play the clip and then give a little comment on it and go to the legislation.
All right.
Because I'm a big fan of Rebecca Vincent.
All right, make sure you guys mute.
I'm Rebecca Vincent, the Director of International Campaigns for Reporters Without Borders. I'm outside the Old Bailey Court in London at the end of the last day in 4 weeks of evidence in the US extradition proceedings against WikiLeaks publisher Julian Assange. Reporters Without Borders has been monitoring throughout these 4 weeks, despite severe restrictions imposed on observers by the court. The judge refused to recognize or accommodate the role of professional NGO observers as being any different to the public. So the only way we've been able to follow this case has been to queue and to get support from grassroots activists who have also queued and held our place on many days to gain one of the very few spaces in the public gallery. This is not how we're accustomed to working. It's not how we monitor cases in other countries. And it did not allow us to fully monitor in the way that we would have liked to. But what we did witness was alarming. We remain convinced that Mr. Assange has been targeted for his contributions to journalism. The evidence heard really strengthened that case. The fact that the Espionage Act has been applied in a political way, the fact that because the Espionage Act does not have a public interest defense, if Mr. Assange faces prosecution in the US, he's unable to use that, which is a compelling argument because the information that was published was in the public interest. We heard from a range of medical experts about Mr. Assange's physical health, his mental health. And in that regard, we have concerns from a humanitarian perspective as well. Mr. Assange suffers from depression, has frequent suicidal thoughts, experiences auditory hallucinations, has suffered PTSD, has a sleeping disorder, among other issues, all of which make him extremely vulnerable. Several experts testified that if he is forced to endure the conditions that he would face being held in the United States, that he would be very likely to attempt suicide. So in some ways, his extradition is a matter of possible life or death. We continue to call for Mr. Assange's unconditional release. We believe that the charges against him should be dropped, that he should not spend another night in prison. He should not have been there in the first place. And he certainly should not be extradited to the United States. We will continue to follow proceedings and do our jobs to the best of our abilities, but we'll be calling again on the court to reconsider its position with regard to NGO observers, and we'll be seeking to escalate that complaint in other ways as well, because we feel that this is not in accordance with the UK's obligations to the principles of open justice and the right to a fair trial. And it's not just those rights that are at stake here, it's the public's right to information. The public has a right to know what's happened here at the Old Bailey the past 4 weeks. The public had a right to the stories that came out as a result of the publication of leaked information. So it's not just a question of Mr. Assange's rights or our ability as NGO observers to monitor, but of the public's right to information, because that's what is at stake ultimately in this case. It is the future of journalism, the future of press freedom, not only in the US or the UK, but internationally. What these governments are doing is a political persecution intended to set a dangerous precedent for journalism, and that must be acknowledged as such. We will continue to raise concern where we can at RSF and to stick with this case.
All right, you're back.
So the big things, right, that I take away from this are the utter lack of any type of public interest defense in the United States. And Rebecca crams so much into 3.5 minutes that it's goddamn impressive. But the fact that this is where the public interest defense gets heard is during this court trial that is now wrapped up. Not wrapped up completely, but the testimony has. And the fact that when he gets to the United States, he'll be placed under these special administrative measures where, as our interviews with John Kiriakou, and John Kiriakou himself has pointed out on multiple occasions, they're not even going to be able to access the evidence. And when it's talked about in court in front of a jury, it's referred to by like fancy made up terms. Like Julian Assange revealed insert fake word like the kitten program and shit like that. Yeah. Like random made up terms that makes it seem way more important than it actually is.
So,
Not that
okay,
it's not.
so I learned a little bit more about that.
Okay.
What happens is the jury gets a list, and the list is of the nonsense words and then what they mean. And so every time the prosecution or the defense uses one of those words, they then have to stop listening, cross-reference, pick up, and it's designed to confuse them. It's designed to make it way harder for them to follow what's going on in front of them, no matter how important the case may be. And that is in there's a thing that happens before the actual trial. I can't remember what John called it off the top of my head, but it's basically like a briefing, but with lawyers, and they're grilling it. At any rate, that's where that part comes into play, and that's when they black out the windows, and that's when they duct tape the doors and all of that crazy shit. And this is all for, our safety, right? That's why they do this, right? To protect us, because hearing words like war crimes or torture or hunger strike in your
but they just love us so much, Steve. They love us, and look what we made them do. It's our fault. It's an abusive relationship. Like, that's what that is. We have an abusive relationship with our government, and it's fucking sick, dude. It's so disgusting. Like, people, I'm gonna go on a rant again. I need to shut up.
Yeah, do that.
No, it's just really frustrating to me because and you're right, they absolutely do that. They use these buzzwords, and it's propaganda 101. It's kind of mind manipulation, mind control 101. If you say something, if you lead with something scary, everything you say after that is all of a sudden more palatable. It's more agreeable to you, and they do this all the time. That's why they will always lead with when they're talking about anything, they'll usually start with, we got to keep the country safe, or they'll, you know what I mean? It's these buzzwords they use to make your brain, your lizard brain.
The world is a dangerous place.
Yeah, I mean, but people keep falling for it, and it's just super fucking frustrating because they, I don't know.
There's bad people everywhere, and they hate you for your freedom. Yeah. So we're gonna take some of that away from you, and maybe we'll be hated a little bit less. No, it's not. Jesus Christ, dude! It's a fucking cartoon. But there's always a couple of I don't know, little bright spots here and there. One of them being Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard introduced 3 pieces of legislation on Friday, I believe.
Yo, big ups to Massey too, though.
And Thomas Massey
Yeah,
co-sponsored immediately. Florida's Matt Gaetz signed on to at least one of them. There will there already are more Republicans supporting this than Democrats. One of the reasons for that, I'm sure, is because a fucking fatwa has been issued on Tulsi Gabbard by the Democrats in the House and the Senate. And it has been since she resigned from vice chair of the DNC and told on Mother and Debbie Wasserman Schultz. At any rate, and I should make this perfectly clear, I don't support any politician. I don't. I'm lying. I did support Adam Kokesh, but that's because he's a friend, and I supported Ian Schlackman because he's a friend. But a duopoly candidate, I am, or a duopoly Congress critter. I'm just on principle. I'm not a supporter of them. But this is a post-partisan organization, and we are always going to celebrate a piece of legislation that at least says the right thing, and we're going to push so that we can get people to sign on to this stuff because it's vitally important. One of them is a House resolution to drop all of the charges against Julian Assange. One of them is a House resolution to drop all of the charges against Edward Snowden. There's also a third piece of legislation that
there he is.
works that reforms rather the Espionage Act itself, and it would include whistleblower protections, so that we would not see the Espionage Act weaponized against whistleblowers. So it's one of those things where I don't care what your feelings are about Tulsi Gabbard or Thomas Massey or Matt Gaetz. I don't care at all. Like, you can be the biggest fan in the world. You can think that they're your least favorite Congress critter. It doesn't matter. The noise needs to be made about this legislation. You need to contact sitting members of Congress often about this. And if you go to actionforassange.com, we've got a couple of different ways that you can do this. And we need you to tell people about it because there are always distractions. Trump got COVID. Tulsi Gabbard said the word Project Veritas and everybody's hair got set on fucking fire. And now fucking the entire squad is ganging up on her. And it's like this fucking Mean Girls cartoon.
Well, it's not. So it's not because Tulsi Gabbard really said anything about Project Veritas. It's because Tulsi Gabbard said Julian Assange's name.
Yeah, out loud.
Like, and so they find some other thing to contrive to create an issue to smear that person instead of saying, hey, we should all support this legislation that supports the most important journalist and the most important trial that shouldn't be happening.
Oh, you can't back her bill now because she said something about Ilhan Omar.
Okay, I'm going to rant for just a second. Can I rant for just a second?
Of course, dude.
Okay. Can we just talk about how?
Wait, hang on. Have you not understood that it's okay if you rant? Like, have you not been made?
You don't understand. In my head, while I'm ranting, it's literally, shut up, Misty. Shut the fuck up. Stop talking, Misty. You're ranting.
Stop
Shut
that.
up.
Take us out of Brady Bunch mode, so Misty's rant is just Misty, and then we'll clip it out separately.
Oh, okay, but I am going to rant really quick. This is going to happen. So it's really fucking annoying to me that you can't support a bill because you don't like the person. I got into a Twitter fight today earlier with somebody. I mean, big surprise, right? I got into a Twitter fight. But this person who was trying to tell me that he can't support the bill because Tulsi and Massey are fascists. And I was like, but dude, the bills are to protect press freedoms. They're not very good fascists. Like that seems kind of, counterintuitive. But he was genuinely trying to tell me that he couldn't support this bill because he doesn't like the person who wrote it and is sponsoring it. Are you kidding me? Grow the fuck up. Are you telling me that if Tucker Carlson supported Medicare for all and was like a champion for it and was, let's just not even say Tucker Carlson. Let's use like a Republican, politician. What if Massey was supporting Medicare for all and pushing it and writing legislation to support it? Would you not support it because Thomas Massey wrote the bill? Really? I mean, this is some juvenile, just tribalistic bullshit. I don't care about Tulsi Gabbard. I could give two fucks about Tulsi Gabbard. All I care about is the fact that this is amazing legislation that needs to happen. And it's mind-boggling to me that grown-ass adults are so reactionary and infantile that they can't just appreciate the legislation, and even if you don't think that she's serious or she's not going to fight for it or what the fuck ever, it doesn't matter. The fact that she is putting it out there into the universe is a good thing. That should be supported, no matter what the fuck you think of her. It's so stupid. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry.
No, you're
spot on.
Absolutely right, though. This is
Hear you breathe,
sports at its worst. Absolute worst. This is like not dating someone because I don't know, they're a fucking Maryland Terrapins fan. And
to be fair, I wouldn't marry a Michigan Wolverine fan ever. Wouldn't happen.
See, that's fucked up. This is my point. That's fucked up.
Okay.
Look, you could say that because you're happily married.
That's true. But okay.
So,
I would still. I've been hit on by Michigan fans before. That's not ever going to happen. Football season will be a nightmare in my house. Are you kidding?
You could be a fucking special interest story on your local news like every season, though.
They do that too. They call it
Ohio woman.
No, they call it a house divided, and they have like map for outside your door, and it's like cut in half, and then one side's Ohio State and one side's Michigan. It's like a whole thing. But there's no with me the way there's no way I could handle that. Do you see how I deal with people? Like something I'm passionate about.
There was an author and occasional stand-up comedian, a columnist out of Georgia named Louis Grizzard, and he said he went and watched an Ohio State-Michigan game once, and it was a lot like two mules fighting over a turnip. And he was not impressed.
Are you kidding? Oh, even if you don't like college football, there's something kind of magical about a college football game, like in the stadium.
Bunch of useless nuts, them Buckeyes.
Buckeye fans are crazy. I'm sorry. We are completely off topic because I'm a ranter. Go ahead, continue. Sorry. Go back.
So I did want to point out though, and I'll drop the link to the bill in chat once my computer decides to not be locked up. The full text of the bill, the HR 1175, which is the one expressly about Julian Assange, it's really well worded. And impressively so.
We went through it Sunday on Slow News Day. Me and Pasta and Alex from Red Star Radio.
Yeah, like I have minor critiques of it, like, oh, this should have been worded slightly differently and shit. But to Misty's point, like, this matters. Like, this is legitimate resolutions that are now in the record of the United States forever that could be passed and gain support if people decided to actually take a principled stance.
And and I'd like to add, like, we wouldn't have to be supporting your fucking least favorite politicians if the goddamn left wing introduced their own goddamn shit, but they don't.
Right? Right?
And it goes through note by note, detail by detail, what has happened to Julian Assange rather in depthly all the way back to before 2010. It's not a perfect retelling. It's not the defense.wikileaks.com/timeline retelling of this, but it is very accurate and really well articulated.
Well, and you can tell that that at least one of them or their staff watched or followed along with the hearing.
Right.
Because it references directly a couple of the things that happened during the hearing.
Right. Which shows a level of Tulsi and or Massey at least caring enough to follow the fuck along, which is bigger than most people did with this trial to begin with, and most people are doing. So hopefully this shores up a lot of support that otherwise wouldn't be happening.
Yeah, and just to kind of reiterate Misty's point, like if you wouldn't support this because it's got Tulsi Gabbard's name on it, that's honestly one of the dumber things that you could do as an individual. Like, it's just,
I'm taking my ball and going home.
Well, yeah, and especially people who claim to be on the left and like open-minded thinkers and people who want solutions, and they talk about how they're all about policy. Well, here's Tulsi with fucking policy, and you're completely dead silent, and you instead pick Twitter fights with her over some dumb ass nonsense, and you could be focusing on this bomb ass legislation that could protect press freedom. I mean,
it's multiple different levels.
and you can't even get them to say it.
Go ahead, Rebecca Vincent. I was going to say, I'd love to be able to get Rebecca Vincent working with Massey and Gabbard and getting this legislation promoted through Reporters Without Borders.
I don't know if they do that sort of thing.
Well, they have their call to action right now for congressional candidates to do this very specific thing. This isn't all 11 points of Reporters Without Borders plan, but this is the ones that Congress can do, like literally starting public conversations, passing legislation, proposing these almost specifically worded amendments to the Espionage Act. So I think that this would be a good opportunity to be able to combine power in a sense, I guess. Like, not that there's much there, but Reporters Without Borders, Gabbard and Massey. Just as a thought.
I think any attention that's called to it is good. I mean, I'm kind of hoping that this little drama from today will like Streisand affect it, and will kind of call attention, because a lot of Tulsi people and just Assange free speech, free press people have been commenting on their tweets and their threads, telling them that they need to support her legislation. So maybe bright side with them being ridiculous, that this will call some attention to the stuff to the bills too. I think at this point, just anybody hearing about it and then maybe questioning it and looking into it deeper, that's a good thing. We're kind of like beggars can't be choosers. We're sort of at end of the rope, like we're out of time, so we just gotta work with what we got, I guess.
No, that's fair. I'm scrolling through her Twitter feed right now, and I don't see anything about the bill. She's Reporters Without Borders International, though. I'm pretty sure that there's a U.S.
There is, but that call to action for the U.S. congressional candidates came like directly from the international institution, more so than the U.S. institution, I believe, if I remember from us working with her or talking with her when she was on for the vigil.
Send an email.
Okay.
Yeah. I need to. So in some follow-up news, I did reach out to Massey's campaign as well, or Massey's camp, like his congressional office, their press people. I haven't heard anything back from them, but I did reach out to the friends that I have that were involved in Tulsi's campaign, and I did hear back that we should be hearing about getting an interview set up with her soon. I don't know what soon means, because that's a very broad term, but I appreciate the person that helped me set that up, if and when it does come to fruition. What do we have left as far as news goes? I think that was most of it.
We've got the Trevor Timm stuff, though.
Yeah. Oh, I just meant like news before we got into the statements.
What was that Freedom Press one? Did I miss one?
Freedom Press. I think that's part of the.
Okay, I didn't show.
Yeah,
that
that's
on my
part
bad.
of the Trevor Timm statements. That's Exhibit 19. If anyone's keeping track of the exhibits.
I have not. I don't even have that doc open right now because I have so much shit open.
Right.
I'm trying to find the list of events coming up. So this is real quick as we transition into the statement part. Alex had a tweet out on the Candles for Assange page that we had between the 3rd and the 25th, we had 117 events on 4 continents. And that was, I believe, street events as well as virtual events. So I was super, super excited about that. So I just thought that was really cool and worth mentioning. We're going to try to keep a more concise list of events that are going on going forward to be able to just say, hey, these are the cities that are having something big. That probably won't be this vigil unless I can find it by scrolling frantically, but it will be something that we do going forward here.
Whoa.
Yeah, once the new site's up too, we'll have all of the resources and stuff on the site as well as the embedded episode on YouTube or whatnot. So
Awesome.
you'll just be able to go to our website, see the vigil, get all the articles, et cetera, et cetera. So that'll be a lot
Perfect.
easier for people to find all that info.
Yeah, I guess we can get into the witness stuff now.
Okay. We're definitely not reading 311 pages of his statement.
No, there is. I'll link his statement for anyone who is ambitious. The statement itself is only about 42 points, and I pulled out most of the big ones for us. And then there is, which is like 6 pages maybe, and then there's 300 plus pages of exhibits and additional evidence that he submitted into court. I pulled out one piece of that and one article from it that outlines the different Espionage Act charges that have been attempted but failed by other administrations. So I'm going to put the link to the document if you want to read Trevor Timm's full statement and get all that into the chat right now. And that's put together by Tarek Haddad, who has been doing wonderful work covering the court case. That site that he has up there that I just put the link into chat for has almost every witness statement on it, if not every witness statement, as well as like the up-to-date court proceedings and stuff like that. So in case you're interested in checking that out.
Oh, Bobby Foxglove. No, Andrew did not say that Action for Assange did 117 events. Overall, this was on Candles for Assange, Alex Hills's organization. There were 117 events globally, both in person and online on the 7th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the day that
well, between the 3rd and the 25th, but most of them were on the 7th. And this was just global free Assange events, not necessarily Action for Assange.
Yeah. Although I did run the math on how much camera time we had during the entire rendition hearing, and just live stream time, we were on for 62 hours and 37 minutes. That doesn't include any of the preliminary stuff or just screen time. Which is
so if you're into binge watching, I would recommend checking out the last 62 hours of content put up by us.
That was 67.
I highly recommend the first.
Okay.
I highly recommend the first hour to hour and a half of like week. Well, like the first 8 or 9 days. After that, it wasn't the first. Seriously, yeah, the first like hour and a half, especially like the first week, is amazing. It's so funny. Oh, comedy gold, you guys.
It was painful, especially the first time we did it the first week on Thursday. That was rough. The non-COVID event day.
Yeah. No, that was great though, because Kevin popped in and he was feeling the exact same way, and that was hilarity. It really was.
It was a salty ass morning.
Yeah. Do we want to start pulling up the witness statement slides though? Do you have those ready, Josh?
Yeah.
Cool.
My computer's being slow as shit and won't let me open it. So
You're good. I can read them. I just gotta make sure I know when they're up.
Okay.
Cool. So this is.
I got them too.
Yeah, this is just portions of Trevor Timm's witness statement that I found to be some of the most important as I was rereading through it. And this is referring to the creation of Secure Drop and WikiLeaks' proliferation of that kind of technology. WikiLeaks pioneered a secure submission system for journalistic sources prior to 2010. They developed a platform for secure communications between sources and media organizations that was unique at the time and allowed journalists to receive communications from their sources in a way that attempted to ensure the source's safety and security were protected. It continues that prior to WikiLeaks, this concept had generally not been attempted before. However, once WikiLeaks gained global attention at around the time of the Iraq and Afghan war logs, the mainstream news organizations took notice and started to set up their own secure systems for the same purpose. So the U.S. is part of the charge is the conspiracy to commit computer intrusion. That is the only non-Espionage Act charge that Julian faces. And it's not specifically for Secure Drop, but it is for communicating with a source, in this case, potentially Chelsea Manning, about the transfer of this information, requesting more information, and using encrypted technologies and literal just knowledge about computer systems to be able to say that there was a conspiracy to reveal these crimes, where what it was a journalist working with a source to expose the crimes of the powerful, not a crime being committed to expose something for profit or political gain.
About to yell at you.
I'm gonna.
I was just seeing if anyone else had a comment.
I'm still trying to get my freaking computer to stop being stupid.
So we've discussed this pretty thoroughly in the past, but I'll just reiterate quickly. If you go to every mainstream outlet in the world right now, on their websites, they have a little thing at the bottom that says if you have sensitive or classified information that you would like to share with, for example, the Washington Post, and then they have a Secure Drop fucking it. This is essentially what I mean. It's absolutely what is at stake here is the ability for people to be whistleblowers, to shed light on what government does in our name or on what major corporations do to us for their profit. Picking back up on these though, I guess it starts at 23, Josh.
Yeah, the second slide.
Yeah. He says, I consider this type of speech advocating for such leaks to be protected by the First Amendment, while the prosecution appear to view this as a criminal act of actively soliciting classified information. Similarly, I also note in the indictments that repeated references to the most wanted leaks of 2009 document presented as Assange's solicitation of classified information made through the WikiLeaks website suggested that Assange alone was encouraging and causing individuals to illegally disclose protected information, including classified information, to WikiLeaks in a manner contrary to law. This is simply not correct. WikiLeaks was originally intended to be a wiki, and although they later evolved in a different direction, they kept that part of their name. A wiki, which is what the most wanted leaks list was, is a publicly editable, collaborative project created by its contributors, some of whom are likely to have been journalists asking for documents of public importance. To assist the court, I exhibit some explanations of the concept of a wiki, and he does that. But look, this is when Trevor Timm took the stand. That was fun. This was during the first week when the line of attack by the prosecution was, well, it's okay if we prosecute Julian Assange because he's not a journalist. And then they went from that the next week to, well, okay, so he's a journalist, but the United States has the right to prosecute journalists whenever we want under the Espionage Act. Fuck no, it doesn't matter that he's from Australia. Did you not hear me when I said the United States? Yeah, we're going to do that. And then they couldn't do that line of attack, or they didn't mean to say that part out loud. That was Claire Dobbins' fuck up. She sat the bench for about a week after that. Then they went to,
I have the tweet up if you want me to pull it up, where Tim says, "I'm glad you brought that up."
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, sure.
Yeah, because I got that document that has literally the entire trial
I guess
outlined.
I won't explain the lines of attack and just kind of go through the.
I mean, you can still explain them. I was just pulling stuff up.
Yeah, you fucked up the momentum. It's all right. I'll do it again. I'm sure I will. But moving on through these, journalists rely on leaked classified information from whistleblowers across government. But Frankel also describes how he received information from high-level government officials, even a president, which they themselves had classified as secret, but which they wanted to make public. Sums up the relationship as follows. I hope I have begun to convey the very loose and special way in which classified information and documentation is regularly employed by our government. Its purpose is not to amuse or flatter a reporter who may have had, whom many have come to trust, but variously to impress him with their stewardship of the country, to solicit specific publicity, to push out diplomatically useful information without official responsibility, and occasionally even to explain and illustrate a policy that can be publicly described in only the vaguest terms. This is the coin of our business and of the officials with whom we regularly deal. In almost every case, it is secret information, and much of the time, it is top secret. But the good reporter in Washington, in Saigon, or at the United Nations gains access to such information and such sources because they wish to use them for loyal purposes of government, while he wishes to use them to learn what he can in the service of his readers. This system provides a rule of thumb. The government hides what it can, pleading necessity as long as it can, and the press pries out what it can, pleading a need and a right to know. Each side in this game regularly wins and loses a round or two. Each fights with the weapons at its command. What Frankel and the rest of the New York Times experienced in the Pentagon Papers litigation was the beginning of the government using the Espionage Act to prevent the publication of information which they did not want to be public. Several times in the decades since the Pentagon Papers case, various administrations have briefly considered using the Espionage Act to prosecute journalists for publishing stories that contain classified information. In each case, the government quickly concluded such a prosecution would be untenable, likely because it would violate core press freedoms in the United States. I would like a little bit of a thought on that one. Where'd you go?
You would like a little what?
I would like to hear you guys' thoughts on that.
Oh, sorry. My internet, it may boot me like it did the other day. Like it's very shaky right now. Just a heads up. Sorry.
Okay, it looks like Andrew buzzed in and out there for a second too. There he is.
Oh yeah. Did we lose it? Okay.
I'm here. My camera freaked out.
Okay. Yeah, my whole shit's freaking out right now. Kevin,
right? Bad code. So I think that points out really well how the Espionage Act is used as this weapon and where it dates back to. But this shouldn't be a regular game. Like, there shouldn't be things that are crimes hidden behind classification systems. Like, that in and of itself is a crime, hiding crimes behind walls of classification. So the fact that there even has to be this tit for tat and this game, so to speak, is absolutely disgusting. And the fact that it's recognized in the journalistic community is something that you have to take on the state apparatus itself to be able to expose any portion of it is, I don't know, like, once you come to the realization that your government isn't designed to allow you to proliferate factual information, it's the way you view your relationship to government just really changes, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Are you kidding? Like, I think that was probably one of the biggest, like, it's going to sound stupid, but like awakenings I had personally is realizing, and I'm sure everybody kind of has their own experience with that, but like realizing that the shit that you're taught growing up is bullshit. And, you know, they don't actually work for you. They're all psychopaths. And, yeah, that's it. It's a whole, like I tell my husband all the time, once you know, you can't unknow. Like, once you figure that out, you're in. Like, that's it. There's no going back. You can't. I wish sometimes that I could go back to a time where I didn't know any of this stuff. But you can't. Once you know, you know. It sucks.
Right. And now that you now know that the government's arguing in court that you can be arrested simply for knowing. So I hope that inspires.
Well, that makes me feel better, Andrew. Thank you.
It does, doesn't it? Doesn't it?
That was a lovely ray of sunshine.
That's one of the reasons that we're lightweight excited to get on TikTok, because we are still launching that, is to proliferate 30-second clips of classified information that's already in the public light. Because I think that saying, hey, violate the act, like, hey, fuck the government, share this information, is a good way to get people to say, like, yeah, like, I don't consent with what's being done.
Especially the Zoomers, dude. I have mad hope for that generation. They seem pretty with it.
As old as it makes me sound, I've been studying TikTok, like, from an old person perspective. Like, I'm 29, like, I'm not old, but I'm old relative to the way the world works and the way the internet functions. So I had to study some TikTok before I could write up a thesis on how we can properly utilize it.
I can ask my 9-year-old for some tips. She's very good. I'm not kidding. She loves TikTok. She loves it.
Yeah.
I don't really enjoy the fact that she loves it, but I mean, it's kind of a lost cause at this point. But yeah, her and her friends love to TikTok. Let me tell you, it's all the rage with the youngins.
Yeah, no, Kimber's been a big help with that, like finding content and relatively important people to follow in ways that shit's delivered. So it's pretty fun to try to look at another social media again and be like, okay, how can I pick this apart? Like, what about this makes the algorithm tick?
And how can I exploit it for
my
own agenda? Because that's what I always think.
The plot.
You're kind of like, you're Steve Buscemi, sort of. You're like, hello, fellow kids.
Hello, fellow kids.
You're studying TikTok so you can be one of the fellow kids.
Hello, teens.
Right? It's kind of creepy. So one of the cool things, though, and we'll get back into the witness thing in just a second, and this is just a point of interest. On September 7th, when Kimber and I, like the start of the trial, first talked about getting TikTok, Anonymous had 1.4 billion views on hashtag Anonymous, and it is now up to over 2 billion in less than a month since then. It's like 2.08 or almost 2.1 billion views on that hashtag. So like, just that holds tremendous power, and then being able to turn that energy of dissidence and privacy into action again is what I think the internet really needs.
I think just the ability to be able to inform that many people so quickly. I mean, you can reach so many people so fast. And I think, honestly, I'm not a huge fan of like the 30-second soundbite type thing, but especially with something as complicated as the Assange case. But I think that it's it's super easy to exploit because you can be very specific about your messaging, and you just kind of have to figure out how to use it to your advantage, I guess. But I'm not even kidding though. My 9-year-old could probably run your account for you, and it would.
That would be. I would love some tech support with that.
Like I have to ask her stuff all the time, how to figure things out. Oh my God, I sound like such an old fart right now.
Right.
Hey, I don't fuck around with the TikTok.
Yeah, I don't really fuck
I
around
mean,
with it either.
I don't recommend it. It's not recommended, but I'll descend to the pits of hell. Like I'll do it for you guys.
Although there is 1 or 2 videos that I have much love for.
Oh my God, it's fucking hilarious.
Seriously though, the videos on there are fucking hilarious. Like there are some seriously talented people on TikTok.
If you want to see some good Ben Shapiro impressions, go to TikTok.
Oh my God.
Yes, I've seen those. They're so great.
Okay,
they're so wrong, man. They're funny as hell though.
I do gotta pull us back though, because I wanna.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. I like talking about it. It makes me feel like a brilliant mastermind or some shit. But this is the fourth slide here.
Huh?
The fourth slide. What?
Yeah. Is it a master slide?
Yeah, it's master slide.
Okay. Am I doing this or just
I can do it. I just didn't know if it was up. Cool, it's up. So President, this is where it ends. These are the last 3 sections in the witness statement. President Trump calls journalists who don't share his objectives enemies of the people and goes as far as to threaten to take legal action against them on a regular basis. The discussion to indict Julian Assange the decision to indict Julian Assange is a massive and unprecedented escalation in Trump's war on journalism, and it is no exaggeration to say the First Amendment itself is at risk. At the moment, President Trump is not able to pursue reporters at the New York Times or Washington Post when they publish something which his government has classified and which is not in his interest. However, the prosecution of Julian Assange will remove these barriers. Trump's Justice Department is attempting to use Assange as a precedent-setting case since it is considerably easier to first pursue a foreign publisher oh my gosh. I suck. Since it is considerably easier to first prosecute a foreign publisher who is unpopular with the U.S. political classes. It is my view that if Julian Assange is extradited, this precedent will be used against other journalists and publishers because the prosecutors will be able to say that their similar journalistic activities equally did not have the First Amendment protections. This is why these unprecedented charges against Julian Assange and WikiLeaks can be considered to be the most significant and terrifying threat to the First Amendment in the 21st century. I am aware that this view is shared by a great many other press freedom and media organizations, and that experts in these proceedings have already offered similar views in these, but it is worth repeating. The Trump administration is moving to explicitly criminalize national security journalism, and it is for this prosecution, and if this prosecution is allowed to go forward, dozens of reporters at the New York Times, Washington Post, and elsewhere will also be in danger. And then we have one last slide here. And this is referring specifically to a Supreme Court case. This is later on in the document. It's from the New York Law School Review, volume 55. I don't know what witness or what exhibit it is inside there, but it's pretty easy. It's like a huge section up at the top. But this is talking about a Supreme Court case here. The Supreme Court has expressly disavowed any test of whether particular speech falls within the prosecution or the protection of the First Amendment. Oh my God. That is premised as ad hoc, determined if the value in comparison to what the harm is alleged to have been perpetrated. Instead, the court has constructed a handful of narrow, specifically defined categories of expression that are not protected by the First Amendment at all, including obscenity, defamation, and fighting words, and has rejected the notion that constitutional analysis of whether protected expression otherwise protected expression should depend on judicial assessments of the comprehensive worth or comparative worth. I'm sorry. As the Ninth Circuit has explained, the First Amendment is as close to an absolute as we have in our judicial
Jurisprudence.
jurisprudence, whatever the fuck that word means. Speech shielded by amendments, protective wing must remain inviolable regardless of their inherent worth. The distaste we have as individuals towards the content or message of protected expression cannot, of course, detain us from discharging our duty as guardians of the Constitution. And I just thought that that was a particularly important statement there by the Ninth Circuit Court, which was entered into the evidence of the court by Tim Lewis in his witness statements. And I just thought that particularly about the Julian caused harm and these leaks hurt people.
I think that's probably one of the best.
So,
Yeah.
The witness was Trevor Timm.
Trevor Timm.
What did I say?
You said like Tim David or some shit, dude.
I quit, man. I'm going home.
That was Jack Jackson.
Trevor Timm.
Yes.
I love you, Andrew.
And those words, I just want to say, I'm terribly dyslexic for anyone that doesn't know. So I'm like trying my hardest here to get the words straight.
You do a great job. You do.
See, I can't maintain eye contact though. So.
Yeah, but you guys, I think that this is, if you're trying, and this is so unlike me, but if you're trying to find like a bright side, the fact that all of the stuff is being entered into a court of law, that's significant. This is, I don't know what difference it will make in the long run, but it's the fact that we have a record now of all of these things. And, that's something, I guess.
Well, Joe Laurie has made this point, but we wouldn't have this record if the entire thing had been conducted in the United States. We heard more in a British courtroom about the crimes of the American Empire than we ever would here. And that should really piss you off. I think it's like, I've told a few people this and they look at me blankly. Like they just it doesn't process that in the United States court system, you can't talk about what the United States government does.
One big club. Like that? One big club.
It is a big club, but I don't understand why people don't get this stuff. It's
because once you recognize it, there's so many other things about your life that have to change relative to that perspective that you just don't want to have to deal with that level of recognition. I recognize that the entire world is built around concealing the war crimes of the United States empire for the proliferation of profit, oil, and individual sociopathic control. Like trying to find what to do when you wake up in the morning becomes exceptionally difficult.
This is why that I always tell people, have these fucking conversations with your friends and shit, like in person, because it took me over 2 years for my best friend to start going, oh shit, they're fucking Assange, aren't they? And he's told other people now, and so on and so forth. So, it's the online shit is good. It does help put pressure and stuff like that, but you got to talk to your damn friends. Like, it has to be done. Like, it's the only way I've found to break through a lot of the bullshit propaganda that people have been subjected to for, a decade? 2? Whatever that...
Well, this is a conversation you can't really have in 240 characters and really be able to cut through people's preconceived notions. It is very complex. This is kind of, it's a really convoluted, fucked up case that is, there's like, 5 different state governments involved and, a decade-long smear campaign.
It's manufactured confusion, as Steve says.
Yes, it absolutely is. And I think that's why it's so much easier to talk to people in person because, there's something about being face-to-face with somebody where you can, answer questions in real time. And it's not like, respond, wait, and then respond, wait. It's so much easier to talk to people about something this complicated when you're face to face, I think. And it's so easy too. I have no shame. I'm sure most of you know that by now. I have no shame. So, I will talk to I spent like my entire hair appointment one time with my guy talking about it. I've spent entire therapy appointments talking to my shrink about it. I'll talk to anybody. I don't care. It's not that hard. I think most people, when they hear the actual reality of what's happening, they're very receptive. They get it. Most people get it. They've just been, mind fucked for so long that they don't even know what's real anymore, so and that's obviously going to be easier to talk to somebody in person when you're trying to tear down their worldview.
I have a Carl Sagan quote for that. I do. Let me pull it up.
I love Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan was instrumental in my radicalization, fam.
Oh, motherfuck. Come on. Where to go? Where to go? Here we go. One of the saddest lessons of history is this. If we've been bamboozled long enough, we tend to reject any evidence of the bamboozle. We're no longer interested in finding out the truth. The bamboozle has captured us. It is simply too painful to acknowledge, even to ourselves, that we've been taken. Once you give charlatans power over you, you almost never get it back.
So true.
Accurate
AF.
That's where, I've said it before, but Sam Tripoli will say most people would rather be right than do right. And being right is just following whatever the current narrative at the time is. And it doesn't matter what it's about. We see this play out every single day where, especially in like Assange land, where there's still people who believe that Paul Manafort went to visit Julian with a fucking 12-pack of Russians in his briefcase.
To be fair, though, that's still on the Guardian's fucking website.
Still.
It's been thoroughly debunked. It is known bullshit. And it's still on their website. There's not even like a little, editor's note of shame. Hey, we really fucked this article up. Sorry about that. But we're going to leave it up to swim in our shame a little bit because we've earned it. No, there's none of that. It's just the article like it's real life, and it never fucking happened.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of real life like it never happened, I'm personally excited to pick through the Russiagate thing that Trump released, like the full unredacted truth about Russian collusion that didn't happen. So I'm excited to go through those documents because I'll probably try to get something together for Saturday or next Tuesday just to point out like, well, there's this that doesn't match up with this report and that. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. Oh, Russiagate though.
Real quick on we should definitely wrap, but real quick, just to kind of piggyback on what Andrew was talking about in terms of being able to, and Misty, in terms of being able to communicate in person with this stuff, we're very serious about trying to hold some in-person teach-in events. And if you're not in the Discord, join the Discord. If you've got a spot where you think we could come and do this, let us know. That's action number 4 Assange/Discord.
.com/Discord.
.com/Discord. You know what I mean.
You can also email us at info@action4assange.com. That goes directly to us. We'll be able to respond back to you if you're interested in helping out in any way with the teach-ins.
You guys should try college towns for real. Come to Columbus.
No, I had somebody suggest trying to use a lecture hall at a community college.
Yeah.
If you go to Ohio State, I think college kids are going to be one of our more receptive audiences for sure.
But so I live in California and all campuses are closed right now. I don't know.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
that's because your state is run by dictators.
Well, you don't even necessarily have to do it on
Figured it.
campus. You can just do it
Yeah.
near campus. If you just find a venue near a campus
Mm-hmm.
and then advertise it on campus, just that audience, I think would be, I think they're going to be one of the more receptive
Absolutely.
groups.
Especially
so-
for the way that we'd be presenting information too.
Yeah. But I mean, come to Columbus for real. You guys can all stay at my house. We can have like a sleepover slumber party.
I demand a dance party.
Yes.
I got all the jazz hands.
Oh, we can have a
But
dance off, but I feel like Andrew would win. Jazz hands are
I
tough
don't-
to beat.
I don't dance. Sorry.
I am shocked, sir.
I know. I know. I did learn how to shuffle at one point, but that was like 10 years ago.
I bet you can electric slide at least, right?
Maybe, if no one's watching.
He does that shit from 40-Year-Old Virgin where he's throwing the dice.
Oh.
I would like to thank everybody for joining us for the 66th week in a row for the Free Assange Vigil. If you're new here, you can find us on Twitter at action_4Assange. You can find us on TikTok, on YouTube, and Rockfin at Action for Assange. And you can find all of our calls to action in the description. There's 4 of them in there. Please take the time to do it. Most of them are just emails. Super simple, super easy, and it can make a lot bigger impact than you think it can. We will be putting up a lot more calls to action. It's something that I don't want to overwhelm the community, but there is a lot of fun tools that we discovered recently, like ways to just do publicly sourced Freedom of Information Act requests and be able to put in hundreds of them as a group. So little things like that it can go a really long way. But thank you. You can find me on Twitter at Andrew Zigman. My name is Andrew Smith, and I just want to say that I appreciate everybody behind the scenes that helps make this happen all the time.
Yeah, and I am Misty Winston. You can find me on Twitter at Sarcasm Stardust. I also have a show with my friend Jesse Zerwell called Facts on the Ground. You can find that on YouTube at Facts on the Ground. And yeah, I just want to thank you guys for having me on again. And I'm sorry for ranting. I really am trying to get better. I really am. Like, it's something I'm working on.
That's part of your charm, Misty.
That's
We like the
opposite
rants.
of what you should be doing.
Your rants are epic.
Grant more.
Oh.
Because otherwise
Those
I
are
just end up saying the same thing 3 times in a different
Like, it's only going to be adorable that you don't want to do it like 2 or 3 more times, and then hearing you explain.
Oh no, I'm turning into Taylor Swift.
Before you do it, you're like, Jesus fucking Christ, will you just say the goddamn words? Just do it.
Yeah.
Go.
You're right.
Fuck your faves with Misty. Come on.
Yeah, oh my God, you guys. Oh. There are so many rants. Like, you don't understand. I have rants in my head all the time that just sit there waiting for an outlet. And I've told you guys before, my drafts on Twitter are intense. Intense. Like, they always say, if I die, have somebody come and like get rid of my porn and shit. I'm more like, if I die, please come and like delete my drafts on Twitter.
Send.
For real.
Right?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I already did my shit, right? I already said everything I needed to.
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Excellent.
Yeah. Unless you got a rant.
No, I'm good. All done.
Okay.
Thanks.
My name is Steve Boykin, and I host a show called Slow News Day. If you're looking for it on YouTube, you can type in Slow News Day Podcast into your search bar, and I will pop up there. You can subscribe to the channel. I don't know how long YouTube will let you stay that way, but you can give it a shot. Sunday on Slow News Day, I will be sitting down once again with Reverend Annie Chambers and Ian Schlackman, and I am so very happy for that.
Do not miss it.
I will also be introducing a new co-host to Slow News Day. Although I may do that, I may let the cat out of the bag on Saturday so that my co-host can, promote a little bit. I haven't figured that out yet though, because scripted. We do it live.
Yeah, I would do it Saturday.
Anywho, I am also on Rockfin and D Live. I would like to thank everyone for hanging out with us tonight. We love you guys. Please do, if you have a line on somewhere that we can do a live teach-in, let us know. We'll try and get that up off of the ground. That will also probably mean that we're going to have to crowdfund for it. We're definitely trying to get to Washington, D.C. for the day of Julian's sentencing reading. I think it would probably only be gone like 48 hours. So, yeah, we've got plans. It horrified me on Thursday as court was wrapping when I realized how much work we have in a short amount of time to do. But we're up for it, and we hope you are as well. We will see you on Saturday. Good luck to us all.